Hello and welcome to this Mobalytics video. I'm your host Virkayu, and in this one we will be taking a look at the best solo carry junglers for 10.7 onward. In essence, these junglers are the ones that you can use to 1v5 games, maybe even 1v9 games if we're being realistic, and you don't rely on your teams that much, so you can actually carry properly. And obviously not all the junglers will be applicable for every single MMR range, so we will mark them in the video where we think they are best suited for high MMR specifically. And so without hesitation, let's begin. It's Season 10, we had the dragons reintroduced with a soul condition, we had jungle experience nerfed and then buffed and then shifted, but the queen of the jungle Elise has remained thus. She sits atop most tier lists and as always has the best early game impact. Very quick single target camp clear, you go buff gromp, now you're already looking to level 3 a lane. The fact that you can do this so quickly means that those lanes that haven't quite reached level 3 don't have that valuable spell to dash away from your gank equals first blood. A basic flash cocoon combo will make anything work, and even if you don't need to flash, that means you will definitely burn theirs, and as such the repeat ganks just set themselves up for the next 15 minutes. Towers don't mean anything to her. She has the repel dodge, the fact that you can go in and out and dodge the aggro, obviously not something you would see in a lot of low MMR games, but in the high elos when lanes are pushing hard level 3 against a tower, it's very easy to abuse that, get flashes, get teleports, get plates, right before the enemy jungler has just finished their own 3rd or 4th camp. While you might be riding a super bike in terms of speed, the enemy jungler is simply on one of those things you had as a kid where you had to pedal to make the bike move forward. At least that's honestly how it feels with my champion pool when Elise breaks out the level 3 gank or as such comes and invades my second buff, and I'm just thinking, hey, I'm just trying to have a humble life farming it away. Her aggression, her speed, how to dominate games early, the fact that she can outgank, outfarm, has the Magi so you can actually outscale and start getting pentakills, means that you have more time to fight, you have more crab control, and let's not forget that objective focus is really supreme when you have a 2-level lead over the enemy jungler, when you've created that lane control. In essence, she is the quintessential Season 10 jungler, and if you're looking for a video specifically on how to dominate the early game using an Elise or Rek'Sai, something of that nature, I will leave that in the description below. I just released it on the weekend, so it's really relevant to 10.7 forward, using those tower dives, objective pressure, and spam ganking in order to get a lead that basically you can't throw. And as such, essentially the AD version of Elise is Rek'Sai. Very good 1v5 champion. She is one of my mains, I do enjoy playing her, and yes, you can have that super impact in the same way, and she does spike much harder at level 6. The only downside is when you're trying to do this and the enemy is Elise, you don't have as much fun because Elise is actually very good into Rek'Sai. If you don't have flash and you're thinking about knocking someone up with your W, she can just cocoon you. You have limited vision where she has full vision. Even if you do flash W, she can simply repel out of the situation. So Elise is more effective in that 1v1 sense, but Rek'Sai can apply the same kind of early game pressure. It has a very similar gameplay pattern in terms of level 3 impact. You must get ahead. You have to think of it like you have a window of time to win, and Rek'Sai has classically been that high elo pick, and her win rate does increase with player skill, but that's largely concerned about knowing win conditions and how to end games quickly. There are some mechanical fiddly-fiddlies in there, but you know, the main thing is about game knowledge and execution. Every kill, every gank, every objective you get extends that period of time for you to close the game, but if you don't get ahead, if you don't get that early game execution and you fall behind, your windows of win condition really closes narrowly. The core difference between Elise and Rek'Sai is that she can actually teamfight, well, you know, to a degree. She has Warrior, Cleaver, GA, this gives you survivability, gives you teamfight utility, you have maneuverability with your E going in and out, you can flash W, you have R to navigate fights, hitting long range Q bombs to sort of move from one end of the fight to the other. You don't instantly get exploded, whereas an Elise that isn't quite fed, you know, Rek'Sai can go really tanky and sort of be an engage bot. Elise kind of has the cocoon and that's pretty much it. But if Rek'Sai gets ahead, my oh my, do you run away with the game. This is the reason people in jungles like to smurf on her. This is the reason when I'm playing, you know, in a clash tournament or whatever and we need a win, I lock in that Rek'Sai. Early game, translate that to dragons, get the win condition of the Dragon Soul, secure 2 heralds, and if you're looking for more in-depth, obviously I mentioned that video, but just make sure your early game plan is executed well and you're totally 1v9 material. Now let's shift focus a little bit. That's a lot of early game control, which is nice in the Season 10 meta, but Qarth is the best late game jungler, maybe the best jungler in the game if you think about maximizing experience camps, maximizing camp experience farm, and not even having to be in the lane to gank. Do not underrate this. The fact that by 258, 259, 3 minutes maximum, you've done an absolute full clear, that's disgusting. You go back to base, you get your Dark Seal, you get whatever you need, you move on down, get a crab at least, and you start the clear sequence again. Because you farm so quickly, the downtime between your camps being up still gives you that Season 9 feel. Remember in Season 9 we'd farm and then we'd spam gank for 2.5 minutes before the camps respawned. Qarth still has that because he farms so quickly that he can do a full sequence in no time, gank, go back to base, and then, press R if he feels like it. If the Elise and the Rek'Sai aren't invading, aren't controlling the early game, aren't making it so that you don't scale, you basically will have a free win. However, stacks measure stats, whereas Kassadin is in the mid lane and is basically the pure example of how to scale and just take over a game, Qarth is the jungle version of it. There has never been a jungler in the game where he starts to farm and you log in level 1 and the enemy jungler has to adjust their entire game plan. Invades objective control, you need to try and end before Qarth turns online in the most devastating fashion. He forces your entire team to buy Edges of Nights, Banshee's Veils, GAs, Stopwatches. If they don't buy them, they will die once he has enough items. If you like farming, if you like ganking but really want to be lazy and just can't be bothered to walk bottom lane, this is the guy you go. Now we might say that in terms of high elo scaling AFK farming, Qarth is the one you pick. It's the reason why most of us hate it, and honestly it's just disgusting, should be nerfed. Low elo has those same feelings about Master Yi. Obviously high elo doesn't like Master Yi because of the Taric funnel, also the fact that he's just the same kind of principle, does nothing, farms, press a few buttons and now he's fed. The thing is, you right click, you win the game. You alpha the CC, you win the game. You heal yourself into tower dives and absorb all the damage in the world, you win the game. Obviously he farms well, much like the Qarth, but a lot slower early, so he's more forgiving in terms of low elo games, although his win rate in the high elo is much higher than it has been historically. Games have slowed down a tiny bit, which means you have more chance to get to those 3 items. You only really need 2, but once you get the 3rd, you take over and run everyone down. Triple attack speed on hit items actually turn into raw true damage burst. Makes them very difficult to kill, and when you're in Clash and you're coordinated, you have a Maokai and a Braum and anything else you could want to CC him, great. In solo queue, what's the likelihood you actually have that kind of coordination? I mean, you can just about get your bottom lane to rotate up to the Herald of the Dragon. How are you gonna get them to chain CC a Master Yi? Oh, and by the way, on LLStylez, when he completes his 3rd item, maybe a Wit's End, that's a 70% win rate on the champion. So essentially, if you're the Rek'Sai or Elise, make his life hell and close the game, or he's gonna make your life hell and you're gonna want to, ban him. So we've got early jungle focus, we have some hardcore scaling. What about the cheese? No, I'm not talking about Twitch, I'm talking about Shaco. Yeah, I know a lot of you say Shaco, but I'm not American. Now typically, he thrives on cheese, and despite the protestations of Shaco mains on Twitter, his win rate has been good for a very, very long time. Can go AP, can go AD. Even though AD was nerfed, it's still strong in the win rates. Again, despite what people might feel on high elo Twitter. Now he has a very unique playstyle, and yes, he can still be played in the support, but it's about that cheese factor, the unexpected factor. Rengar, Kha'Zix, Evelyn, they get seen from a distance when they show up with their camouflage. Shaco doesn't have this. You can just walk behind someone and put a box down and they die. Now obviously a Rengar, a Rek'Sai, a Warwick, we don't mind facing the Shacos because we can detect him, we can see him. But it's not about that, it's about the laners. They will never understand where Shaco's coming from, they will not ward appropriately, and you can just use the absolute cheese disgusting factor of his existence to make sure you get fed. And you basically tilt the whole enemy team, and now when you're fed you can split push. You can actually have a decent team fight. Your assassination is of course what you do best. And once you start getting that snowball, it can get very much out of control, nowhere is safe, the enemy jungler is not seeing another camp, objectives are his. Basically sounds like a 1v9 machine if you learn how to play it. But remember, it's so different to every other jungler on this list. You need to spend time, learn him, learn the art of the cheese, and you will gain that sweet LP. And maybe with some crackers on the side. Now if that's not quite your afternoon snack and maybe you prefer a cigar, Graves is the guy to go. The thing is, he just got buffed. And the thing is, he was strong before that anyway, and high elo players specifically were having very good success on him. He didn't have the best win rates in gold, diamond, platinum around there, but the new Death Stance item on him 3rd is insanely good, and usually scales well. Also don't forget, he's almost like the closest thing you're gonna have to a marksman tank. Good early game, but especially good with that Ghostblade item. Now obviously I'm not going to get too much in itemization, he has a lot of versatility to him depending on your natural playstyle, but he has high damage, very good farm, feels tanky, like he's very difficult to kill, and the smoke screen is just a global blind, it feels like. Doesn't matter that it only takes up a small area, it just seems like it blinds the entire team in one go, and he doesn't really need anyone else to do those things. Can kite himself, has good damage, the burst combos if you know them. Not to mention that you also have damage over time, basically just feels really good. You need to be aggressive though, use early power, you have to invade the enemy jungler. The enemy jungler must fear you. If the enemy jungler does not fear you when you're playing Graves, you're playing too safe and you're playing too passive. You want to work on total control of the map as a Graves jungler while controlling your own jungle farm. There's a reason he's also played in the mid lane because of his low mana cost on the queue. You can just spam wave clear and shove, and then you can roam. So if you're looking for a marksman jungler, the time of Graves is here, but on the note of being aggressive, of being alpha, There is a reason in high elo ADCs basically ban Rengar no matter what. Not only does he really feed off of stupidity, which is again why they ban him because they have no idea how to position, or when people make mistakes he just kills them. All of this is made worse by that bone tooth. It gives him free bonus AD people. So if you're inting him in the beginning of the game while not paying attention to his pathing, to bush locations, to bush jumping, to ultimate power spikes, you're just giving him not only gold, but free stats. And yes, he is better for Diamond and above just because his early game and mechanics can be quite difficult. You need to be very smooth and fluid, you need to understand your matchups. He is ideal for solo queue because he is great in the 1v1. He's obviously great at picking people off, but it's taken on a new pattern in Season 10 where he has very high win rates at 3 items. Usually those core items are you keep the machete, you have the Tiamat, Duskblade, Edge of Night, you get a Last Whisper item, and someone is definitely dying. I mean, they are gone. Once you've done that, you sell the machete, you get the PD, you sell your boots and you get the Infinity Edge, and if you happen to have even more gold, you can finish your Ravenous Hydra and also sell the Duskblade for an Essence Reaver. So now think about how much gold is required to get to that build. It also means that's the Exodia build, and you basically scale infinitely. You have 5 stacks of Bone Tooth, you have items that you just keep building, get more gold from pickoffs and from fights, go back and sell and buy even more powerful items. He is the ultimate scaling assassin in terms of the fact that itemization, you almost don't have enough slots for it. Actually, no, you literally do not have enough slots for it. And once you get that PD shield and the crit, look, I mean, if you don't kill 2 or 3 people, then you're playing the champion wrong. He's one of my original mains. I have a full guide on my channel as well. Just know that once you've mastered and spent time learning Rengar, again, it takes a lot of games to get used to him. He is essentially the ultimate and quintessential original 1v9 jungler, and you frighten ADCs just by picking him. Now yeah, Ekko would have been number 1 on this list early in the season. He did get a few nerfs on his clear, didn't really affect him too much. The systemic changes to Cinderhulk, to the experience buffs, and changes to other junglers who've risen up in the meta, such as Rengar, Kha'Zix, Shaco, Elise, Nasteey, Rek'Sai. Oh wait, most of those are on this list. Now you see the problem. While his first clay isn't anything to write home about, his lockdown at level 3, the safety of his ultimate, the assassin that he becomes with that insane wave clear as well in the queue, it's basically the total package. You buy however you stack it. I'm gonna say he's effectively like the AP Rengar. He does a better job of being that AP assassin than Evelynn does at the moment. Evelynn doesn't have enough power in the early game and the objectives to really threaten as much as Ekko does. The oppressiveness that he can apply to the map simply by getting 1 or 2 kills and a few stacks is so supreme that if his counters weren't, really top tier meta picks at the moment, his win rate would actually be 2 or 3% higher. I'm not a fan of the positioning of Proto Belt, but once you have that or Lich Bane, you get a Void Stuff, some Zhonya's, a Rabadon's Death Cap. I mean, what's stopping you? You have such a low cooldown on that ultimate, you have such supreme teamfight control and damage, that once you up it, there's really nothing that can stop you except something with a lot of lockdown, and that's where his weakness does come in, because he's not as solo carry in that sense, but has a big impact, and as you can deduce from what I've said so far, he's a bit more dependent on items than others in this video. Now we do have some honorable mentions, but I want to have a first honorable mention that sort of gets a bit more of a talking point, and that's Olaf. He was sort of the defining champion. Put a Yuumi on him, a Dragon Soul in the beginning of Season 10, and you lose. It's not as broken as then, but the fact that he could full clear very, very quickly, and once he gets 2 or 3 kills, he steamrolls. He literally runs down like a berserker, his nickname, and you don't have to think about it. Press R, kill stuff. And while you're doing that, please remember to pick up your axes and use that cooldown bonus, because a Viking running at you without an axe is just basically a crazy person. And the Dragon Souls essentially show up his biggest weakness, late game. Without the ultimate, easily kited. Even with the ultimate, if you kite back well enough as a team and have enough damage, you can actually end up getting him down before turning on the rest of his team. Requires early game knowledge and just runs people well. Good ganks, nice counter jungling. Other junglers in a 1v1 really stand no chance. So good pathing by Rek'Sai and Elise, getting that pressure first, getting that gank first before the Olaf is one of the most crucial things in order to counter him. High damage, very tanky, and a great duelist. It's really only his late game and kite ability that makes him fall off so heavily. Finally, just a brief mention about Zac, because he's probably as close as you get to a solo carry from this kind of class. Now, this will change over time. Before it was Sejuani, now it's Zac. Maybe it'll be something else later in the season. There's always one tank that has the best chance to carry, but ultimately you're really left at the whims of your team. If they don't follow you, if they don't understand engages, or if you don't peel correctly, you can just lose the game. So that doesn't have the straight 1v5 potential as you might expect. But his passive and infinite CC and blobbiness basically makes him so strong in the jungle. The Cinderhulk buffs plus Warmog, some armor and magic resist. You're not killing him, he's disrupting your entire team. And let's remember this, ADCs who have no mobility, they have terrible positioning, so a long-range E-bomb into ultimate basically seals their death. And finally, if that's not for you and you happen to be specifically Korean, In Master Tier and above, and you're like invading and playing hyper aggressive, Nidalee is ultra good. But as I said, you have to be ultra good. And the reason I said the Korean thing is because she just seems to have a much better win rate on that server than on NA and EU West. Now obviously you can begin to learn the champion in Diamond. I would not suggest it before. You have to understand tracking and jungle invasions. That is the crucial key. You have 6 abilities, you have a range form and execute. You need to be consistently moving. If you find yourself having downtime and not knowing what to do in the jungle, don't play Nidalee. Nidalee is basically, I know what I'm doing at all moments, every phase, I have decisions rolling all the time, I don't take breaths to speak, and then you win. Can be super fun, just make sure you have the mechanics for it. Okay, there you have it. I hope that's a good window on what junglers you can use for the 1v5, and again maybe 1v9 potential. Make sure you understand the requirements of the win conditions from each of these picks. They have something different, early game farming, cheese, are they a marksman, are they a Nidalee? Pick one that suits your playstyle the best based upon the breakdown in this video, and I'm sure you will be able to see much more carry potential than if you pick something else. Like, don't play Zyra jungle like me. It's not very good. I mean, it's fun, but it's like trying to climb a wall with your bare hands. So with that out of the way, I hope you were able to enjoy and learn something. Please do like, share, and comment on this video if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to Mobalytics for all that variety content coming very soon. Whatever the role, whatever your rank, we will have videos for you to help you climb and improve. I've been your host Virkayu, and as always, I will see you all in the next video.